Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Elite Health Podcast. My name is Boomer Cornwell, one of the owners and co-founders of Elite Health Online. And with us today is Makaylah, our scientific expert. She's our new Director of Scientific Affairs and Business Development. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Boomer. How are you?
Good. So today, we're going to have a little bit of an interesting topic. So this is something that tends to be more seasonal. And especially as we get into the fall and the winter, this is going to become a little bit more important. We don't tend to think about this kind of stuff in the summertime, and that's the whole idea of immunity, and specifically immunity support. Now, I'm not sure if everybody listening to this or watching this realizes, but at Elite Health Online, we do have a vast array of really good immune support products, and we're going to get into some of those today. The very first one I want to talk about, and I'll let Makaylah get into the science behind all this, is one that we call Elite Elixir, or sometimes referred to as a Myers cocktail. I think there's various forms of this. The form that I like is typically the injectable form. But on the list, let's go with that one first, and let's talk a little bit about Elite Elixir and what it does for us, and what type of immunity support we're looking at.
Of course. So Elite Elixir, and like Boomer said, is more regularly known as the Myers cocktail. You oftentimes will see this in an IV form. We're very fortunate to be able to offer it as an intramuscular injection, give patients a little bit more ease and allow you to administer this at home. What it's composed of. Myers cocktail has a little bit of different additives depending on where you get it from. The best formula, the one that's offered through Elite Online, is going to have vitamin C, a huge multi-aspect, very powerful antioxidant, along with B vitamins, especially Bs 5, 6, and 12, as well as magnesium. So magnesium is going to be something that helps decrease your blood sugar, relax your muscles, and help you with sleep. So the whole group of these, minerals and vitamins are going to help boost your immune system by helping you, increase your energy. That's what the B vitamins are going to do. Help with your metabolism, help you, lower your stress, where vitamin C will come in and especially help you flush out any of the toxins that are remaining in your body.
Mm-hmm. So, and one thing I want to mention too to our audience about the Elite Elixir Myers cocktail, because of the mineral content, like you're talking about it, because specifically the magnesium is pretty high in that.
Yes.
That whenever you do the IM injection, you may feel a little bit of a stinging sensation, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's okay. That's the magnesium. It's the mineral content, right? But some people go, oh, that hurts. I don't want to do it. No, that's okay.
Yes.
Just kind of grin and bear it, get over it, rub the spot after that for a minute. It'll go away. It really will. But that's actually good. It means that the mineral content's where it needs to be in that.
Well, and hey, it's one of those things where if it burns, it means it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin C has a pretty high pH, along with magnesium, which can make you feel a little flushed. The best advice that I could give to patients who are injecting this, because I have done it myself, and, whether you're doing it in your deltoid or in your gluteal, to do it slowly does certainly help. And, I always get a little ouch pouch and ice it for a minute before I do the injection, and then I'll do it. But inject slowly. And it can certainly help alleviate any of that,
What's an ouch
sensation.
pouch?
Oh, just like a little, like a tiny little ice pack that it's actually
okay.
sticky on one end, so it just sticks
Oh,
there.
interesting. I've not seen those. Okay. Well, so the next product I want to get into is not one that I traditionally think about as immune support. I think about this more as a liver support, and that's glutathione.
Yes. I love glutathione. Again, glutathione available, in an intramuscular injection might sting a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sulfur-based compound. So as, if you are curious, we've spoken in depth about glutathione in the past, especially at the liver. But to sum it up, glutathione is an amazing anti-inflammatory. In the liver, for example, it will downregulate the inflammation so that the liver is not prone to as much damage, whether you're on steroids or anything that might be, you might have elevated liver enzymes. Glutathione is an amazing product to add to your stack or your protocol. Mm-hmm. It is a great antioxidant, so much to the point that people often use it for helping with their skin tone. It can help flush out, free radicals and clusters of dead or damaged cells and give you a much cleaner, not only feeling, but also look. Mm-hmm. Again, it is sulfur-based, so it does smell a little funny. Usually you're going to inject it, once a week, but as, a lot of these things can be taken when you're sick or preventatively.
Right.
Glutathione, most often you're going to see it once a week, but if you're like, hey, something's coming on, you can certainly do it up to 3 times a week if necessary. If you are curious, you can go to the, Elite Health Online and got a question and talk to one of our providers. We can give you a little bit more guidance, but in this case, glutathione is an amazing final electron acceptor and flushing of all, the harmful toxins and what are called free radicals in your serum.
Can you do the glutathione and Myers cocktail or Elite Elixir in the same week? And you can do those together. So you can't. Okay, well, very good. If you can tolerate the kind of the little stinging sensation, I guess that's pretty
Sting
good.
a little bit, but
Glutathione is interesting. It's just one of those things that I think is just really good to take anyway. I mean, immune support, absolutely, but just liver support. I mean, because what do we, typically, I mean, we live in America, right? What do we do on the weekends? We go out, we drink a little bit. Sometimes we drink a little bit too much, right? Well, it's not necessarily going to address the dehydration aspect of it, but certainly from liver toxicity standpoint, I mean, anytime you go out and introduce anything like a substance or an alcohol or something like that, your liver enzymes are gonna increase no matter what.
I'm happy you brought that up because the human body has genes encoding glutathione. Glutathione is really just a combination of 3 amino acids. It's glutamic acid, glycine, and cysteine. The body has instructions on how to make glutathione, but are they all turned on? Are they all active? Not really. People who don't have glutathione genes might see that they get sick more often. The reason is because they're not upregulating the production of glutathione. A lot of this is, hypothesized that because back when humans were evolving, 100 years ago, we didn't have the toxins and the heavy metals, up in the air like we do now. We weren't ingesting it and modifying the chemicals inside of our body. So supplementing with glutathione is certainly something that is, very widely recommended throughout the year for liver support and immunity. And even beauty,
Interesting you bring that up, the beauty aspect of it, because kind of surprisingly, and then we'll move on to the next topic, but kind of surprisingly, so many of our, particularly female patients, that's one of the things they report back to our providers is, wow, my skin really seems to be clearing up. What's causing that? Well, it's the glutathione causing that, right? I mean, their skin it's kind of glowing a little bit. Their wrinkles are going away. Some of the surface blemishes are going away because it addresses the free radicals that you're talking about.
Yes, and collagen production.
So
when it comes to actually the immune system function of glutathione, you'll see it with other molecules I will talk about, like NAD and particularly vitamin D, is it helps regulate the function of a certain white blood cell type called T regulatory cells. T regulatory cells are what's going to tell your body whether to upregulate inflammation or downregulate inflammation. So I'd like to sidebar here and say that inflammation is a very natural part of the immune system. It's something that the body has always done in response to foreign or unhealthy cells in the body. Granted, it's a little counterintuitive sometimes. I think most people have realized or heard that, yes, you have a fever, your body's fighting an infection, but if your fever gets too high, it will start to hurt the healthy cells in your body. And that's very true. In this case, we need regulation of immune cells, white blood cells, to upregulate and downregulate the inflammatory processes so that you're not hurting the body more than you are helping it while trying to fight an immune response.
Interesting. Let's move to a product that, quite honestly, I need to learn a lot more about. I know it's one of your very favorite products, and that's NAD.
Yes.
Okay. So talk about NAD. First of all, what does it even stand for? And second of all, how does it help with immune support? Because it's not something I would traditionally think about in immune support.
Yes. So NAD is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. This is a very well-known, well-studied molecule for anti-aging and longevity. How does it help in the immune system? So with another product that we'll talk about here in a moment, NAD is something that's consumed during an inflammatory response, which pretty much means when your body's like, hey, I need to upregulate inflammation, something's going on here, these processes that use NAD as a source of energy start to become more active. Because of that, if you supplement with NAD, you can modify these processes to allow them to become more beneficial than harmful. We're providing your body with the necessary cellular energy and anti-inflammatory. Remember, NAD is an amazing antioxidant. It's charged. It's going to help neutralize those oxidative free radicals, increase the availability for helpful cells to come to the site of infection and fight the infection.
Interesting. Okay. So then moving right along, then, and kind of in that same vein, another product called LDN, or what we call low-dose naltrexone.
Yes.
Right? Which I know in higher forms has a little bit more of an availability or purpose, say like in substance abuse or something like that. But in the low doses, how does that help the immune system?
LDN is going to be a little different from the last few we've spoken about. Whereas, NAD, glutathione, Myers, those things can be taken meanwhile and before you're sick to help, fight common colds, infections, and even more. I mean, NAD and glutathione have been very well studied in sensory disorders like autism, chronic neurodegenerative diseases. LDN, or low-dose naltrexone, works very differently than attracting immune cells to the location. Low-dose naltrexone is really just an amazing, underutilized, very versatile drug. Dosages, whereas for the FDA-approved dose for, dependency is going to be about 50 milligrams. Low doses, you're going to see anywhere from 0.5 milligrams to 4.5. The way that this drug works is more for chronic inflammatory disorders, including autoimmune diseases. So those are things like chronic pain, diabetic retinopathy, and even psychological disorders like autism, Crohn's, and IBS. So LDN works in a very particular fashion. One of the mechanisms that it does is it is going to help increase your concentration of natural opioids, or you might know those as endorphins. So if we increase your level of endorphins, you won't rely so much on any other pain mechanisms or exogenous painkillers. Additionally, LDN also blocks the activity of the central nervous system or the brain's immune cells. Those are called microglia. We're going to downregulate the inflammatory response there to help decrease any pain throughout the body. So it is really just one of the most versatile options for anything that is regarded as an inflammatory disorder, including, like I said, allergies is one of the big ones, but all the way down to autism, cardiovascular disorders, and really everything across the board.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that LDN, low-dose naltrexone, may not necessarily be considered a weight loss drug, but it does help a little bit with appetite suppression, or at least leaning toward not going after the sweets and like high carbohydrate type foods.
Yes.
Right?
So on that same, endorphin pathway, we want to increase your natural endorphins. We don't want to have to supplement with opioids. And so increasing your natural endorphins will help reduce the drive for things like sugars. And, the addictive and pleasure-seeking pathways LDN does play a role in.
Yeah, that was always my kind of first forte into the low-dose naltrexone world, but to learn that of the immunity support is really interesting. It's kind of news to me. So another one that, again, here I go, traditionally don't think about in terms of immunity support. I think about the mainstream stuff, your vitamin C, vitamin D, which we'll get into in a minute. Something that we have at Elite Health Online is called Cardio Formula. I'll let you get into what's in it. I know it's two main ingredients. I do take Cardio Formula, not for the immune support. I take it for other reasons. But talk a little bit about that and how that helps.
Yeah, so the Cardio Formula is composed of arginine and citrulline. Arginine is really what's regarded as a semi-required or semi-essential amino acid. You get a lot of it from food, but you need to supplement with it, especially in the case of cardioprotective benefits and the immune system. So the way that it works is arginine and citrulline will react in the blood vessels and produce nitric oxide. Nitric oxide does a couple things here. So for the cardioprotective benefits, it will induce vasodilation, or the increase in diameter of the blood vessels, and give you more room for your blood to flow. On that same consideration, that same wavelength, when you increase the availability for fluid to flow through the body, you're also giving immune cells a greater pathway to reach the site of an infection or an illness. So taking nitric oxide boosters like arginine and citrulline will help you fight an immune response faster by allowing substances in the blood or the lymph, which is where a lot of immune cells travel, to reach the site of infection at a quicker rate. Additionally, like with a lot of these vitamins, arginine and citrulline deficiencies are widely linked to a lot of inflammatory disorders. Things like even sepsis are widely connected to arginine depletion.
Very interesting. So let's move on. So one topic too, and this is kind of one of my favorite supplements to talk about, is vitamin D, because it's very versatile. And by the way, we'll get into this in a minute. Is there one or two of these that you would recommend? Can all these be taken together? Should they all be taken together? We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's hit on vitamin D first. There's not misconceptions out there, but every specialty, say cardiovascular versus neurology versus primary care, they all have different ideas about levels of vitamin D because they're all trying to address a specialty that they're trying to treat, right? So you need, for instance, certain level of vitamin D for cardiovascular health, certain level of vitamin D for neurological health, but from an immunity support, okay? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why vitamin D is so important from an immune standpoint. So
going back to, what we just spoke about, T regulatory cells. I think this this is arguably one of the most important aspects of vitamin D. Vitamin D plays a role in activating and monitoring T regulatory cells. T regulatory cells, again, are the white blood cells that are going to either upregulate or downregulate inflammation throughout the body. Almost everyone needs vitamin D. We just don't get enough sun. Almost everyone needs to supplement with vitamin D, and there are some amazing brands out there. Again, I'll reiterate, as I usually do on our podcast, to please make sure you're getting your things through a viable source, through a good source. A lot of these vitamins are good when you're actually getting that vitamin.
Right.
A lot of these things, that are available at grocery stores or really not the most best vendors in the entire world are not being vetted by, third parties. You can't really guarantee that what they say is in the capsule actually is, or it's at the concentration it needs to be. If you're looking for a good vitamin D supplement, please go reach out to your provider at Elite Health Online. Go to Got a Question, and we can suggest some great vendors for you. 99% of the population needs vitamin D. And again, I'll circle back. I think, inflammation is linked to a lot of things throughout the immune system, as well as advanced, accelerated aging and other age-associated chronic diseases. And using vitamins, minerals, and, medications that are responsible for modulating and assisting in the immune response in the best way without killing healthy cells that does need to be there is one of the best ways to support your immune system.
It's a good point you bring up because there's a lot of studies that show that, today's population, specifically younger kids, not only are they not getting enough vitamin D, it's actually just the opposite. They're staying indoors and away from the sun, not intentionally away from the sun. They're staying indoors because they're playing video games or they're on their phones or whatever the case may be, which is another problem. But I've also read some studies too that suggest that really and truly it's really difficult, if not in some cases next to impossible, to get enough sun to even upregulate your vitamin D levels to a certain amount that we would even need for this, right? So even if you did live in the sun and you went to the beach every single day, that still may not be enough.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that honestly goes for a lot of vitamins that are really necessary, amino acids that are vital for the natural and normal processing of the body. I mean, when it comes to hormone regulation, DIM is a big proponent of regulating our estrogen levels. DIM is commonly found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower. But in the United States, just the quality of the food is not the way that it used to be.
It's terrible.
And therefore, you do need to supplement with these vitamins and these minerals, these amino acids, to help your body, reach that state that it needs to be at. Like these vitamins like arginine, right, you get from red meats. They used to be called non-essential amino acids in the science world because we got them from our food. At this point, they're called semi-essential amino acids because we are noticing that the general patient population does need to supplement with these because we're just not getting enough from our dietary intake.
So let's go back and kind of recap what we've talked about. We have our Elite Elixir, we have our glutathione, we have our NAD, we have our LDN, we have our cardio formula, we have vitamin D. I'm sure there's some other things out there too. We certainly at Elite Health Online don't ever want to overprescribe things, and we would never, we really don't want to go down that road. But is there anything that if somebody said, hey, I want to take all these, I don't know that there would be a reason to do that. Is there anything that should be avoided, or any of these contraindicative to each other?
Yeah, so, we don't want to throw the kitchen sinks at the patients. We want to do what's best for you and what makes the most sense. Honestly, most patients do need things like a cardioprotective, the cardio formula. NAD is an amazing anti-aging medication that can be taken cyclically. Glutathione as well is also regarded as an anti-aging medication, and everyone can supplement with that. Myers too. When it comes to contraindications, there is some minimal overlap here. If you are allergic to sulfa drugs, we wouldn't recommend taking, or you have a sulfur allergy, wouldn't recommend taking glutathione. When it comes to Myers cocktail, maybe if as you get closer to the flu season and you are living with maybe kids who are going to school, they always get sick. Every time school comes around, everyone's getting sick. Myers cocktail is something that's great to have in your home. These all can be taken, in cycles. Glutathione, NAD are two really great things, but might not really need to be taken at the same time because they offer very similar benefits. Myers cocktail, renowned immune booster, and is really common more so in the flu or sick season. When it comes to cardio formula, I mean, you could take that forever as long as you don't have very low mismanaged blood pressure. LDN, that's really going to be more of a patient-specific thing. But if you do think, hey, I might have some pain, I might have an autoimmune disorder, or you might just not be feeling your best, please go to Elite Health Online. If you are an existing patient, go check out, ask one of our PCCs a question, or if you're ready to book, go book telehealth appointment. It's free. The lab work is free. Talking to our prescribers is free. And we'd love to take care of you and see how these might make the most sense.
On these medications we're talking about, our products rather, for immune support, is there any science or thought behind, do we take it proactively? Do we wait till we get sick and take it afterward? We don't want to completely negate or preclude the effects or the benefits in some cases of like an antibiotic, right? I mean, there are times when an antibiotic is going to be necessary. We're not anti-conventional medicine here. We're not anti-antibiotic.
Yes.
We don't believe in taking it if you don't need it. But, when would that be appropriate? And then should the patient be proactive or reactive with this?
I'm happy you brought that up. Very happy. So a lot of these, like Boomer mentioned, this is not a replacement for amoxicillin when your kid has strep. This is more, I'm going to go to the airport today and it's icky and kind of gross there. So I'm going to give myself a Myers injection before I go. Or maybe you have glutathione on hand instead because you're using it as a liver cleanser as well. Go ahead and give yourself the injection before you head out. Most of these can be used either preventatively or reactively. Glutathione has amazing data around its benefits during mono. People who get the Epstein-Barr virus are mono. So throughout, your day-to-day, if you start to feel yourself getting sick, you're like, hey, my throat kind of hurts a little bit. Whatever you have on hand, on the offside, on the other side, cardio formula, that's something that most patients should be on just for overall cardioprotective benefits. But Myers, glutathione, and NAD, it really just depends on what stage of your life that you're in and what other benefits you're looking for. If you're looking for more of that beauty, that collagen production, that, glutathione might be a better option for you. If you're thinking more cognitive, better sleep quality, anti-aging benefits, NAD is an amazing option. But hey, if you're like, I need you to throw the kitchen sink at me because I have 3 kids and they're all in school and one of them is sick every other day, Myers cocktail might make a little bit more sense. But again, like Boomer said, this is not a replacement for a Z-Pak or Augmentin. And, while it does downregulate inflammation, it's not like Benadryl. It's not going to, in the case that you are looking to have access to these medications, we do have options for them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing that we have been asked a lot about recently is, what about in the case of an emergency when I am having an immune response and maybe I can't get a hold of anyone? Or, maybe there's a catastrophe going on and I don't have access to a pharmacy. We recently have relaunched and started to really remarket an offering that we have called a bug out bag. And hey, I got a bug out bag.
Yeah.
I got one in each of my car. So the bug out bag is really going to be a combination of antibiotics that you might need for things from ear infections to strep throat to abdominal infections, all the way to eye drops, ear drops, topicals for fungal or bacterial infections, and even the option to add some Narcan or an EpiPen to it.
The EpiPen is going to be, I think that's kind of a crucial addition to that bug out bag. Yeah. That's actually kind of a really popular idea. And we didn't have a lot of time to get into it today, but I am going to recommend that everybody go and check out our bug out bag because it is really cool. It's got a little bit of everything in there. To your point, if you're on a trip, you take it on vacation with you. You take it on the road where maybe you don't have access to a doctor or maybe access to your doctor that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
To your point, it's the middle of the night and you can't get, and something's happening, you can't get anybody on the phone or whatever the case may be. Really, really good kind of thing to have on hand, I guess, to address that. So, well, a lot of good information here today. Thank you again, Makaylah. I really appreciate it. Always a wealth of knowledge for us. And this is, again, important subject when we talk about immunity support. While we don't want to sit here and tell you that all of the things we talked about today are going to necessarily prevent you from getting sick, we can't make that promise at all. The hope is that either A, it would prevent it in some way, or would at least to her point, kind of down-regulate it so that maybe if you do come across something, maybe you do get some type of an infection, maybe it's not as severe in nature, right? And we can kind of get past it a little bit quicker and not have to, take a whole bunch of time off work and be laid up in bed and that kind of thing. So, well, as always, go to www.elitehealthonline.com. Take a look at all these products we talked about today for immunity support. This is definitely the time of year to take a look at that and get serious about that, especially to her point, if you have young kids around who are going in and out of school all day. If you're constantly in an environment with a lot of people, this is the time of year to think about this kind of stuff, folks. So again, www.elitehealthonline.com. If you have a question, just click that button, got a question. You can have a call with one of our hormone optimization specialists who can go over this information and anything else that you want to around weight loss, hormones, wellness, just about anything. There's no barrier. There's no cost for labs, as she talked about earlier. There's no cost for the consultation. We can't make it any more easier for you. Go online, check us out, click Got a Question if you need some information. If you're ready to go, click that book telehealth appointment and get signed up with us today.